Don't touch that dial. Next is the Deep Dish Free Speech series on prisons, bars and stripes, doing time inside the prison complex. This compelling series of independent films and videos will give you a hard-hitting and uncensored look at life on the inside. Tonight we'll look at AIDS epidemic in prison. It's the best of progressive programming on Free Speech and Deep Dish TV.
I too want to play a role in like breaking the silence around AIDS.
Out of all the referrals I know, I don't see one thing geared towards women incarcerated. There's not one single thing.
I don't know what was supposed to be rock bottom for me, but the only thing that appeared to be it was HIV, you know. And I actually feel like it's like one more challenge, you know. It's like the poverty and the arrests and the drugs and all those other things that I survived, and it's just one more thing to struggle with.
I'm Martha Melendez. So I put down that I'm recovering from crack and heroin, right? And my first problem is being HIV. And then my second problem, I put my spouse. Because in spite of that, maybe my husband is a pain in my butt, but HIV is my main concern, because if I can't keep myself healthy, then I can't deal with him.
But together we stand, and together we lay. That's how I live tomorrow and today.
Listen to the voice of experience. Stop the beat and listen to the melody.
Round and round and round and round.
Yeah. I bitched, I cried, I moaned, I yelled, I screamed. I couldn't understand why God had did this to me, why he put this death sentence on me. Oh my God. Then I tried to figure out where I got it from. I mean, I went through a whole lot of stuff.
Lately I've been feeling very down. Being in the system makes you feel down. Getting online to chow when you're going to get toilet paper. Getting counted 117 times a day. Where are we going to go? I'm in my bed. It's a nightmare.
I met this fabulous sister at Bedford, and I call her my white dove sister, and her name is Kathy Bodine. And Kathy approaches me one afternoon in the quiet yard, and she says, T.J., Judy and I have, and a couple other people, a few years ago, were thinking about, you know, educating women on AIDS, you know, because it's something that we're concerned about in our community here.
They wrote a proposal to the superintendent and said what they wanted to do, that they wanted to be able to have a forum where they could meet together and at least talk about AIDS in Bedford. I guess it was about 30 people there, and it was a very diverse group. And still some of us didn't even know why we were there. So we like went around introducing ourselves, and about the third woman, she said, my name is Sonia and I have AIDS, you know. And I had never heard anybody say that before out loud, and I don't think anybody else in the room had heard anybody else say that out loud. And the room went like silent, and then people like engulfed her. And it made me cry, because it was like there was so much support in the room for this person who was able to say, I have AIDS, you know. And I thought to myself, I could never say that.
AIDS was great for me. When I got diagnosed in '89, I walked around like I wanted to die. I didn't know if I wanted to die or live. But I met Katrina. And Katrina was doing my legal work in the legal library. So Katrina took me to the side one day and she said, come let me talk to you.
Some of those issues in terms of like legal stuff was, do I still have a right, you know, to furloughs, or do I have a right to custody of my children? Who has a right to this information, my HIV status information? How does parole use this information against me? What am I entitled to, you know? So it basically dealt, because it was a women's facility, it basically dealt around child care issues. I would say that was the major legal thing. But it also dealt with wills, you know, the right to die, and, you know, all those issues for people.
He says, I see you down taking the same medication I'm taking. So she said, but you're not in none of our groups. So we talked, and she got me to come to the groups. Okay. When I went to the group, I told her, she said, Tell me what problems you have. I tell her one thing I don't know how to tell my lover. So she met my lover. And we talked, and we got through that.
Relationships in prison must exist because people need to feel and be touched by other people, okay? And who are there? Other women.
They don't allow condoms in the women's prisons, but they do allow them in the men's prison. And that's just like to me saying that they're allowing them to have sex, but not the women. You know, they have to sit down and see that. I mean, they're already in jail.
But how could women use condoms?
As dental dams or on their hand.
For medical advocacy, it dealt with how do I talk to my doctor? You know, what things I should be asking him. How do I handle a doctor that's trying to just push drugs on me that I have some opposition about? How do I get a third party to go into a consultation with me, with my physician, and help me translate this medical information? And so actually getting an individual to go on visits with other PWAs and say, okay, and developing a list of questions that that particular individual might want to address to their physician, but was intimidated to address.
I still went to groups and I was still crying. So she said, well, what problems we have today? I don't know how to tell my mother don't want me in her home, okay? So we finally told my mother. Now my mother definitely don't want me in her home. So they was there for me, they gave the support, and when I did leave Bedford, I went home.
In order for me to get out of Bedford, I had to get an address, right? And I knew I couldn't live with my mother, and I knew I couldn't live with my sister, and my other brother was in Georgia, and my brother Cedric was out on a mission, so, but I had to get out.
The first problem coming out of prison is getting financially stable, and that's only a little part of the problem, because it takes time, and you're going to have a lot of idle time. You're not going to have enough cash to move around, going to the places, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's not going to go like this. Here, go ahead.
With my T-cell count and the opportunistic infections that I have, I've been turned down by SSI twice. My old man is my landlord. I get regular welfare, and I don't get much. So it's like I also need to make some money. I'm a grown woman. I can't live on $340 a month and $80 in food stamps.
And then you have to deal with what's around you. If you live in a building where they have all them drugs, and you know what's going on there, and every time you walk out the door, you gotta use the bathroom outside or something like I do. And you know, I'm clean, and they look like this, you know, and I'm over here saying they're gonna rip me off any minute, you know, and things like that, and there's nothing that I could do about it. Okay, that's part of the problem.
In a city jail, they might have some methadone maintenance. In Bedford, you're not going to have that. So one, people are either going to have to kick on their own, you know, and people are not going to openly come forth and say to the medical department, after being there 6 months or a year, I've developed a heroin habit, or, you know, I'm on crack, or whatever, you know, and so there is no treatment because docs automatically assume this doesn't happen, and so we have no addicts here.
I didn't pay no attention to them bullshit drug meetings they got in Bedford Hills. I smoked a joint in the yard and go to a meeting. That's what I did.
The population of people that have some history of drug addiction, and I'm summing them all together, I would say about 85%.
When I came home, nobody took me by the hand. I went right back to getting high. I had all good intentions of like, I don't want to be a slob no more. And I came home, I was fucked up. I didn't know what to do with my status. Okay, I looked around, all my friends were dying in the streets. And on methadone programs, I was like, my God, what am I going to do?
The choice is mine. With my ordinary joy and pain inside, I try to get by. And I ain't going under yet. No.
When I was in prison, I was thinking, well, where can I go when I come out, and what can I do and stuff like that. You know, I didn't know there would be an ACE Out program like this.
We started ACE Out, so women that coming home the way I did wouldn't have no problems that I had. I didn't have no support when I got home. Only support I knew about was ACE support, right? Now that I was in the street, I didn't have no one to turn to. And we don't want our ladies coming home and don't have nobody to turn to.
When I was in jail, I learned that you could be with women and it doesn't have to always be about gossip. That's one of the reasons why I wouldn't hang out with women. The only time I came to hang out with women was in jail. Out here, you can call me whatever you want to call me, because they called me prostitute and everything because I was always with men. I was always in a group of men and always talking with men. I was always like the center of attraction, I'm not gonna lie. And that's what I liked it then, you know. Today I have a very jealous husband, and I don't want to be the center of attraction anymore. I just want to be part of something. And that's how I feel, that I'm part of A South.
I think one of the most important things is to stay in touch with people, to keep calling. You gotta keep calling. You know, Leslie, I gotta call Leslie. Leslie's gotta call Linda. Linda's gotta call Tony. Tony's gotta call Angie. Angie gotta call Marty. Marty gotta call Deborah. Deborah gotta call Katrina. You know what I'm saying? And on and on and on. And so what's up with Lee?
Whatever you do, don't get unattached from us, because we're your family. See, we there to help you pick. You know, we got a puppy on each side. We're there for you. But we can't help you if you're someplace else and we're here. You know, and then you never consider that we might be worried about you. You never thought.
Shut down, yeah.
You know, like I'm calling this place and this man is not, like he's telling me he's giving you a message, and then you're not responding back. And I'm saying, well, I know she got a quarter.
I'm a product of my environment, and I used to thrive on insanity. If there was no insanity in my life, I had to produce it. Drugs was a great way to produce insanity.
The other problem is the idle time. That's the big one. The idle time when you don't have nothing to do and you're just getting situated, that's the hard problem.
Now, first I became the video queen, because I don't have nothing to do. Every day, I don't have nothing to do. I start buying videos. The man know I'm going every day with about 4, 5, 6 videos. Okay, I got bored with those videos about 2 months. I was watching those videos. Then I became obsessed with buying food. I would have 9 rolls of toilet paper and go buy 9 more. You know, obsessing on, stuff, just buying things because I ain't got nothing else to do. See, I don't really know how to, I don't really know how to live because all I did was get high.
All I suggest is don't let that emptiness mess with your head and allow you to go back to drugs. That idle time, do something, make something, even if it, makes you go and do something constructive, start knitting, start doing anything.
I did something with the idle time, and I suggested that to you.
Yeah.
You said, I don't need it. I said, you know what? You're in a very active place, baby. And if you're in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get hair.
But the HIV, it's rough too. Because at any moment you say, wow, I'll wake up tomorrow and I'd be like, what are those people, they'd be having, to go to the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Or what's going to happen tomorrow? The big question mark. What's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to feel all right? Am I going to get fever? How am I going to deal with this when it comes?
All you can do is try, man. I don't even know you. Like personally, all you can do is try. You try to get through a day. Living with AIDS is no joke. You know what I mean? Sometimes I go into 12-step meetings and I hear people say, yeah, I'm okay with that. I ain't fucking okay with this.
Right.
I am not okay with it. I'm not even a little bit okay with it. I have my moments and I have good days, but I really seek out places to go. I come over here, I go to long-term survivor groups, I do this, I do that. I try to get involved in the field.
In terms of this week coming, like, wow, am I going to lose everything because I'm going to wind up in the hospital and start all over again? That's just like getting busted and starting all over again.
I thought I would have the AIDS, not him, because he had a job and a car, and that's the type of denial I was in.
I did smoke a lot of crack, and smoking crack caused me to have unsafe sex. So while I was out there worrying about getting $1 here and $1 there, I wasn't thinking about I can get this and I can get that. I was treated for syphilis. I was treated for herpes. He was telling me that in my blood I had hepatitis B. And I was like, oh my God. So he's like, all these symptoms, and you say that you've had gonorrhea in the past. And I started having venereal diseases when I had my second baby, and that was in '85. So I don't know how long this has been in me.
I found out recently, okay, that he tested positive 2 years before me and never told me. And we practiced unsafe sex. Now, I'm not saying I got infected from him. I might have infected his fucking ass. I don't know what happened. I just kind of turned around to him the other day and I said, you know something, Mike? I said, I'm trying, like, I won't even, like, try and make this a reason to fight. I said, do you ever think about maybe that because you didn't tell me I got infected? Which, it seems far-fetched to me. I was using needles way before I met him. And he said, I thought about it. He said, I don't know. I said, how come you didn't tell me? And he got a little fucked up. He said, because I was ashamed, man.
So I think a lot of this plays on our HIV issue. Just a lot of this.
I do too.
Because see, I stayed in a sick relationship, so as long as I could be in a relationship, sick or in sick or whatever, I stayed in it. Because just because my HIV tells me you ain't gonna get nobody else.
All right, there you go. All right, that's my problem.
Ain't nobody else gonna want you. Then you got this sick body, you sick and this and that. So see, so the relationship was sick, where a normal person would say, no, you hit the road, Jack. Especially in recovery, you know, but see me having that very low self-esteem with the HIV, it just told me, yeah, well, maybe it ain't that bad, I can fix it. What can I fix?
People don't want to risk losing lovers, you know, whether it's inside or out. And so, and on a lot of levels, you know, there's an attachment to their lover. Either this lover is taking care of them or providing someone to come in and give them visits and leave them money or whatever.
When I told my ex-husband that I was HIV, that's when we broke up. The minute I told him I was HIV, he ran out on me. You know, I mean, we were in jail, both of us, but he ran out on me because he didn't want me back.
And he looks at you, or she looks at you like you stupid, you know, when you say you're using the dental dam or you're using a condom, when I've been taking care of you for the last 3.5 years. I've had your kids, kept them from going to foster care, you know, came up every visiting day, make sure that you had whatever it was that you needed, you know, and now you're going to tell me about a condom. What the fuck was you doing while you were in there?
When I learned how to love Deborah, just that much, you know. I learned not to compromise. I tell you, to compromise on my values. Now, I didn't have a lot of values when I was in the street, so these are things I had to learn, you know, okay? And for me, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not going to accept that you got another woman. See, I did that when I was in the street using. See, you can have Jane, Mary, Sue, because I had dope. It made no difference. You can have anybody you want. As long as you got that bag of dope for me, or I got the crack. And if you didn't get that, I had attitude. Okay? I'm not using. I'm not accepting that you sleeping with somebody else. I'm not going to accept that. I don't care if I went to jail. And listen, this is the package deal. Okay? I got HIV. You want to be with me, or you don't? See you later. You look better with your hand on the doorknob going out the door.
I didn't know nothing about self-love until I started coming to the meetings. I really didn't. I didn't even know that those two words were together.
But I think what's under that is our own self-esteem about who we are, you know, as women, as prisoners, as, you know, women of color or whatever. I think that needs to be dealt with before we could begin to say to women we got to be empowered and, you know, we got to take charge of our own lives. They first have to say, who am I, you know, and what do I want for me, and what do I think about myself, you know, and before any behavior changes could happen, that transition has to happen internally for her.
They're asking me now at the agency that I should start drawing up a will. Drawing up a will at the age of 25 is like, it's hard. I keep trying to go around it because I'm like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to live, I'm not dying. I'm just learning to live with this thing. And I refuse to die. I refuse to think negative. I'm going to think positive because I see that when I think negative, everything goes wrong. When I think positive, the world will fall on me and everything's still okay.
It's a shame to see a little child mature, growing up knowing that there ain't no cure. I've got you under my skin. I've got you
mother again after 4 years. And
You have more children?
Yeah, I got 3 other ones, 3 other children.
Where they at?
2 of them, I lost them to foster. They're been adopted already. And the 3rd one, before I got pregnant of her, I voluntarily gave her up for adoption. I felt that I was unfit at the time to take care of my child. And she was in a good home, and I wanted that same lady to take care of my baby for the rest of her life.
I'm getting ready to go take classes so that I can sit my child down and tell her I have AIDS. You know what I mean? And I don't know how I feel about doing that.
Right now, I have to deal with giving her medication, taking my medication, left my watch at home, you know. It's like, I know that things may be going a little hectic, but I have my sisters here to help me, you know.
And sometimes the only way I can survive it is like to do something about it. My whole thing was I always wanted to work with female inmates coming home on some kind of reentry level, tell them this is what you got, don't go get high with your friends, go to SSI, go to welfare, do this, do that.
A lot of the girls are getting their children back, and they don't know how to deal with them, you know. I don't know how to deal with them either, because I'm just getting my child back, but we'll do it together, you know, and that's what I keep telling them, we're just going to have to do it together.
You know, I know the ladies have heard it all before, but it's different when they hear it from their own kind.
I want you ladies to be able to make it like I am. For the newcomers, I've only been at this maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks. And it's not like I was studying for all this, because I wasn't. The only study I had was in jail. I just came out 3 months ago, 3.5 months. And I'm trying to show society that if us ex-convicts can do it, the ones that are already in society can do it too. They don't have to wait till they go to jail to come back out.
Now I'm founder of the Borough President's Women's Workshop. I'm co-founder of ASOUT. I'm on the panel of ICCF, which is Inter-Council Community Fellowship. Okay, that motivates me when I'm being recognized for being in Albany, Syracuse, you know, being in City Hall. That's my motivation, you know. When I go into the prisons and women of myself recognize me, that's great. I love that, and that's what keeps me going. That's my recovery.
I'm not in the street, I'm not drinking, I'm not drunk, and I got an illness that's life-threatening, and I still want to live. Can't tell me I ain't nobody.
A couple of days ago, I was in Rikers Island, and there was inmates against the wall, women inmates, and the commissioner was there that day also. And when the lady seen me walking down the hall, it was like, yeah, they don't never clean up the place until people from the commission office have come in, right? And I happened to turn around and I say to one of them, I'm you, you're me. I stood in these walls and said the same thing you said. One of the ladies hollered, oh, I know her, that's Linda.
The recognition for outstanding contributions on behalf of HIV-infected individuals, as a role model for other ex-offenders and all HIV-positive individuals, the Osborne Association is proud to present the 1992 McCormick Award to Katrina Hayslip.
If I could leave with just like one message for today, I think that message would be that we must always find a way to motivate ourselves. We must find a way to use the smallest success as an incentive to continue doing this work. And by all means, we must not allow prisoners to be invisible. Let's be professional. Thank you.
Born of the earth, child of God, just one among family, and you can count on me.
Can we take a serious moment of silence for all those infected, affected, for all those people yet to be educated, followed by the sermon of prayer. Those
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you're working, so work it, live it.
Spring forward into a fresh new lineup of programming from Free Speech TV. We give you the most forward-thinking programs you'll see anywhere on television. The military watchdog America's Defense Monitor, the eco-resource show Life in the Balance Towards a Sustainable Future, the best of queer programming including Dyke TV and AIDS Community Television, and the outrageous social commentary of Rocks. It's the best of progressive programming each week right here on Free Speech TV.
I'm here because I'm an ex-prisoner, and I'm also HIV infected, and I learned that status while being confined. And because I want adequate health care for prisoners that I left there, and it shouldn't be a death sentence that they have HIV, I don't want them harassed or isolated as a result of that. I want education for them, peer education, which includes condom distribution and dental dam distribution. I want to acknowledge that he needs that there and to provide it for them, because the prisoners themselves are taking the initiative to try to change things and are being harassed and penalized as a result of that. I want them to let out terminally ill individuals due to HIV, because that's like double jeopardy, and it becomes a death sentence for those individuals. And if they pose no threat to society, let them out and let them die in dignity in hospitals or in the community that they belong to. And I want them to acknowledge that and to change that. So that's why I'm here.
We'll never be silent again. We'll never be silent again.
My name is Rosalind Simpson Bay, and I'm 43 years old. Born Washingtonian. At the age of 11, I was raped by 7 men, and I think that's kind of where my life made a U-turn into rebellion, low to no self-esteem, and just one of those don't care attitudes. And I took to the streets. Know a lot of people say, what can an 11-year-old child do out in the streets of Washington, D.C.? Well, in the early 60s, there wasn't a lot of stuff going on like what's happening now, and it was very easy to hide. I had corporates from 10 years old to 50, you know, willing to aid and assist me for whatever. I learned the street life quickly, and to use myself, my own person, as a matter of survival. I got locked up in February 1986. Stayed over to the jail for 2 years waiting to go to the feds, and when I got to Lexington, Kentucky, my weight started falling. I had my first bout with pneumonia. It wasn't PCP. It was a microbacterial infection, and my appetite and stuff started deteriorating, and started having night sweats, and I mean, not where you wake up perspiring, I mean where you wake up and everything is just drenched, and you don't know, you know, like what's happening, and 3 and 4 times a night, and I just felt that it was something. My diagnosis came back January the 10th, 1991, and I was full-blown. I had a CD4 count of 135 and dropping. You have some places that you go to and they find out that you're HIV positive. The first thing they do is isolate you. They seclude you. You know, like you've done something, you know, wrong, and they're so afraid to deal with you as a person or a human being. It's like you just shut off from everything. I had that experience in Lexington. They couldn't find a reason to put me in segregation because I hadn't done anything. So what they did was, anytime that I would go for medical care, they would give me an appointment 3 or 4 weeks down the road or whatever. I guess they was hoping I'd just get sick and die or something, which compounded the problems because I wasn't being medicated, so, you know. Or they would see my name on the sick call list and just scratch it off. You know, just discard it altogether. Or we don't have your chart, so we can't see you. It's that kind of thing. And that hurt. You know, but I also know that was behind ignorance and fear, too. I know that today. I didn't know then, you know, because I felt like they were supposed to be medicals, and this is their profession, and they should be, you know, a little more abreast on being compassionate or feeling or something.
On September 9, 1990, 4 prison guards entered Donald Woods' cell. They were wearing full riot gear, including face masks, gloves, pants, jackets, electricians' boots, and standing behind a 6-foot by 4-foot plastic shield. They brought a towel into the cell with them, which they intended to cover his mouth because they were afraid that Donald Woods could give them AIDS by spitting on their riot gear. Bullshit! 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 They put that towel around his mouth, held it there for 15 minutes, handcuffed his hands behind his back, put him in a laundry hamper, wheeled him to a different part of the prison, stripped him naked, tied him to a bed in direct violation of state law and DOC policy, and a 200-pound guard kneeled on his chest for 4 minutes. And when they were through, Donald Woods was dead. AIDS did not kill Donald Woods. The state of Wisconsin killed Donald Woods. Shame! 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 You can't hide. We charge you with homicide. Tommy Thompson, you can't hide. We charge you with homicide. Tommy Thompson, you can't hide. We charge you with homicide.
And I did 10 years in the hole. I was considered a high security risk prisoner due to the influence that I had over other individuals. I've never influenced them to do violence unless violence was the only and last mean to sustain themselves as a whole or their dignity. In the penitentiary now, if they feel that you are acting out, as they put it, acting out, now you're locked in a cell, you can barely stand up and spread your arms, you got iron bars in front of you. I mean, what real damage can you do even if you decide to act up? They strip you naked. They chain you down to a steel plate in an air-conditioned unit and shoot you up with a drug and leave you there, which per se is supposed to be for a certain time limit, and then you're supposed to see a psychiatrist or someone within that time limit. By law, you're supposed to, but in actuality, it doesn't happen like that. I've seen them leave guys in there way longer than that time period. I've seen brothers of all makes and colors be mentally abused and mentally destroyed as human beings, and their manhood taken, their dignity destroyed. It comes to a point where deep down inside of you, no matter how educated you are, you come to a point that you see it, you know what you have to do about it. And when you're able to escape the grips as we call it, from the belly of the beast. You find more violent crimes, because I'm not going back. I'd rather be dead before I go back.
I'm in contact with literally hundreds of prisoners around the country, hundreds of corrections administrators. The situation in Wisconsin is not unique. What's unfortunate is that Wisconsin maintains a good reputation, and good in quotes because I don't believe it's well-deserved. It maintains a reputation of being a liberal state regarding corrections, and yet we have the situation that over the past year, 2 prisoners have died, one of whom was brutally murdered because of the type of AIDS phobia due to the lack of AIDS education.
Apparently, he was acting in some type of irrational manner, possibly causing a lot of noise. Now, in my view, that meant that he was exhibiting symptoms of his illness, and instead of dragging him over to the segregation center and treating him as he was treated, he should have been provided with some sort of medical treatment.
Personally, and I think the court agrees with this in Turner, and it demonstrates it, I think most of the society does, that people in these institutions have demonstrated through their behavior that they, in a lot of very important ways, do not deserve to be treated the same as other people.
For me, the issues of prison healthcare come together both because of my own personal experience as a prisoner and also as a doctor who was interested in prison health issues. In 1982, I began to experience prison healthcare from the perspective of being a prisoner, and then in 1985 developed cancer while I was in prison. And of course then had a much more intense interaction and a fight to try to get any kind of health care for myself, and had that repeated again in 1990 while I was still in prison for politically motivated acts, and had cancer for a second time. One of the things that happened, again around this issue of medical people being complicit with security people, is after the doctor realized there was this lymph node enlarged there, eventually I had it biopsied, again under incredibly intense security conditions with armed marshals in the operating room, and it came back that I had a form of lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease. So now everybody knew that I had cancer and that it would be important to start the treatment as soon as we could. But to do that, I had to have a series of tests before they would know whether radiation or chemotherapy was the indicated treatment, and it was very important that they get done. And they called in an oncologist, a cancer specialist from the local hospital who was supposed to see me. He came and saw me once, did a history physical, and told me what the workup would be, and it totally made sense to me, and that was fine, and then nothing happened. And weeks went by, and nothing happened. So now I knew that I had cancer, they knew I had cancer, and nothing was happening. And so, I mean, as you can imagine, I was incredibly stressed and fighting about the fact that this workup had to happen so the treatment could start before the cancer spread further. And so one day, this outside doctor appears, and he, you know, he claims to do a bone marrow biopsy on my back. And I said to him, what happened? I said, weeks ago we talked about it. What happened? He said, well, the marshal said they didn't have the security to have you get the CAT scan or the lymphangiogram, these 2 tests that had to be done in the local hospital. And so he said, so I've been waiting on them. And I just lashed out at him again. I said, wait a second. You know what has to happen. They have only one concern. If you leave it up to them, they'll never have the people to do it. You're a doctor. You're not part of their system. You say what needs to happen and let me and my lawyer and the courts, then we'll fight if they don't want to do it. But if you never say it, then the marshals are dictating what kind of treatment I'm going to get for cancer. And the answer for the last 3 weeks is I've gotten no treatment for the cancer. And again, here was, even with this outside doctor, this intimidation, and partially that's based on class interest, partially it's based on just the general perception in the media of who prisoners are. And also the fact that you have to you always have to just accede to the authorities. And I saw that time and time again.
I've had periods of hospitalization where you be in the bed and your leg is shackled to the bed here, and the officer didn't even want to take it off so that you could go to the bathroom. I mean, you know, like you was going to run somewhere. I mean, people who couldn't even walk, you know, that you literally had to almost pick them up and bodily take them to the restroom, and they were shackled to a bed. I felt like, you know, is this how it's going to end? Is this where it's going to stop? You know, doesn't anybody care? Does it matter? Do I matter, or is it because I have 6 numbers behind my name that I'm exempt? I mean, this, you know, I don't count.
The AIDS activist group ACT UP staged a huge protest in front of the Capitol today and took over the office of the medical director for the state prison system. Some 20 activists were arrested during the protest, which centered on prison medical care.
We're fighting for prisoners' rights.
Prisoners have died of AIDS from neglect. Prisoners have died.
ACT UP, the AIDS coalition to unleash power, wants better medical care for prisoners, particularly those infected with the AIDS virus.
Many of the women have given up. I'm not going to take my medication because I don't want to be in here any longer than I have to. And many women have incorrect information about the disease. I'm going to die. They're told they're HIV positive, and then they're told they're going to die.
Basically, there is a woman here who is a client at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation who wants to tell a story about the fact that instead of letting them know that she was HIV positive and going to Walker A, that she decided to keep that a secret and to work the fire line, which basically entails getting up at the break of dawn, lifting 25-pound bags of sand, and very strenuous work. She was so afraid of being isolated on Walker A, and that has to tell us that there is something very wrong at Walker A. What happens is that a lot of women who are HIV positive or who have full-blown AIDS, they're getting a death sentence for writing a bad check. And that's just way out of hand, and that shouldn't be. I see the prison system as basically like a holding tank for people of color. Few people are rehabilitated through the prison system. Basically, people are taught to be better criminals in prison. And they're even further demoralized than they were when they first went in.
When you dehumanize people, and that to me is really what happens to prisoners and in prison, is that you become dehumanized, or you're viewed as not being human by the people who are in charge of you. And once that happens, almost anything can happen to you. I mean, I think that's the experience of the world. Once you dehumanize a group of people, then it's amazing what other human beings feel like they feel free to do to them. And so whether it's the security people or the health people, once they accept that view of prisoners not being human, and it often can play into class issues, it can play into racial issues, it can play into gender issues of who matters. I think that's one of the key reasons that prisoners can receive such inhuman and brutal health care. In the federal prison system, at least, there is no requirement that a doctor needs to be licensed or that a physician's assistant, a PA, needs to be certified. And there are only, as far as I know, only 2 places where you can practice medicine in the United States without a license, and that's federal prison system and the Bureau of Indian Affairs on Indian reservations. And I think, again, that reflects from the level of the government or the dominant society about who's human and who's not in this society.
I'm HIV positive, and the IDOC did not inform me of the fact that I was HIV positive until the day before I got ready to go home. They knew almost a year beforehand, and due to them not informing me, I had sex with a couple of inmates, and they're positive because I didn't know. One was released and one was sent to the other joint. And it's their policy not to inform you if you are HIV positive or not. And I think that's a tragedy, you know.
I mean, you yourself acknowledge that sex is going on between prisoners. Isn't that true?
I don't acknowledge that sex is going on between prisoners. I will acknowledge that sexual contact is prohibited by prisoners and that we shouldn't be doing anything to facilitate it.
Are people becoming HIV infected in prisons in Illinois?
Are people becoming HIV positive in prison in Illinois?
Yeah. Yes, getting infected in Illinois state prisons.
I don't know that I know the answer to that.
Is there a rampant AIDS problem in the Illinois correctional facilities?
I don't believe so, no.
They wrote a proposal to the superintendent and said what they wanted to do, that they wanted to be able to have a forum where they could meet together and at least talk about AIDS in Bedford. I guess it was about 30 people there, and it was a very diverse group. And still, some of us didn't even know why we were there. So we went around introducing ourselves, and about the third woman, she said, "My name is Sonia, and I have AIDS," you know. And I had never heard anybody say that before out loud, and I don't think anybody else in the room had heard anybody else say that out loud. And the room went silent, and then people engulfed her. And it made me cry because it was there was so much support in the room for this person who was able to say, "I have AIDS," you know. And I thought to myself, I could never say that.
It takes at least 5 to 10 years, right, before it to show up.
No, not antibody-wise. It takes 6 months. 6 months to a year for your body to produce antibodies. You can be 5 to 10 years without, you can be HIV positive, live for 5, 10, even 20 years without getting any symptoms.
One of the first things you have to do is start preparing your spouse before you get out there. You know, if you go into the board in 2 years, don't wait until after you go to the board and make the board to tell them, well, once you get out, they want to use condom. You know, right about now, let him know that, you know, you start learning that, you know, you're going to workshop, you learn about the HIV virus, you learn how to take better care of yourself, and, you know, send him pamphlets, you know. Hopefully he read them. You know, when you get visit, talk to him about it. You know, bring up the discussion.
My daughter is 24 years old, and she doesn't know that I know that she had a lesbian relationship at one point. But my sister had told me about it. But what I did, because I had got a pamphlet, it was a little pamphlet from here, and it was telling you for if you had sex with a woman, what you're supposed to use. What I did was I sent her that little pamphlet. And I just told her, I'm singing this because I love you and I don't want you to get AIDS.
And we felt strongly, the group of us that began to talk about it, that, you know, these people coming from Albany, you know, weren't believed. They weren't believable. Well, of course they're going to say that because they work for the same guys, you know, and that it was going to have to be us talking to each other and as a community that was going to start to be able to make things more believable. And I think one of our greatest concerns at that point was the stigma, you know, because we felt like unless we could break some of the stigma, there was no way to talk about issues of safe sex or any of those kinds of things. And until the stigma was at least challenged and opened up, there was no way to really, in a considered way, fight for people's medical rights, because no one would come forth and say, I have a problem and I need help. We wrote a proposal to the superintendent, asking to start a program that was a peer education and support program. It sort of came from 2 places in our minds, and one was the example that we saw of the empowerment of PWAs that was being fought for on the streets in the gay community. And to us, that was like a real change from just, you know, it wasn't like we were just saying, oh, this is terrible and you have to do something for us. We learned from them that if this was terrible, we were going to do something for ourselves. And if we didn't do it for ourselves, no one was going to do it for us.
from my perception over the last 5 years, there has been more of a relationship between HIV/AIDS groups on the outside and people in prison. And I think that's incredibly important that that continue, because it's too easy to isolate prisoners on the inside. Prisoners have played an incredible role in getting peer counseling going and doing education, but especially when it's going to come to raising a fight around access to condoms and dental dams or issues around bleach. I think that's an even more difficult fight to wage if you're isolated on the inside. And I think people on the outside can give enormous support, can help push the issue legislatively, in the press, through direct action, and when prisoners on the inside ask for help from the outside, to do that in a supportive way.
So I started to educate myself. Anything that I could find, I would write NIH, all different kinds of organizations, AVOL. I said, the people need to know. So for 1.5 years, I worked on setting up a health fair in Kentucky. They said no, but I believe if you stick to something and show people that it's really something there to what you're saying, eventually they'll open the door, and they did. And it was a beautiful fair, and the participation was tremendous, and I used myself as a living testimony, because I felt by me being a resident, I could get further with my own personal experiences dealing with this than trying to give them something that come out of a book that I don't understand anyway. And we streamed out little support groups from that, and I made a vow to myself that from that point, my mission would be to reach out to as many people as possible, wherever possible, however possible, and let them know that they're not alone. This is a battle, and it belongs to all of us.
Next message.
Hello, this is from Los Angeles. My name is Dave. Yeah, I think Free Speech TV is a great concept. It's very interesting, and I am all for trying to expose national media conglomerates for liars, for what they are, and to bring an element of truth to the media.
End of message. Next message.
I don't know how this show got on TV, because I never did anything like this, but I think it's fantastic. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Next message.
Yes, my name is Brian. I'm calling from Tampa, Florida. I love this FSTV. It's great. It's showing all the presidential candidates, Pat Robertson, and all of these candidates. They were just so pathetic. So pathetic. But I love your show.
Next message.
Yeah, I don't get it. There's this guy crying. He hasn't said a word for like 10 minutes. It's just, a bunch of crap. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, this guy's just crying. Why is he crying? Does he have AIDS? I mean, he's obviously in a bunch of distress. I just don't understand what you're trying to convey with your message here. You need to be a little bit more clear and direct with what you're trying to say. It says Free Speech TV, but he's not saying a fucking word. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't understand.
End of message.
I mean, to describe the effects of Thorazine, as I said, to picture someone on cerebral palsy who has no control of his body, of his limbs, and yet you can think you want to be able to grab something, but you can't do it. You want to be able to go to the bathroom, and you know that you have to be able to go to the bathroom, and yet you just urinate on yourself. And I've done this. And to sit there and to cry because you can't go to the bathroom, and you more than anything, I more than anything wanted to get up. I had to have to fall out of bed, just fall out of bed, and lie there and scoot myself up against the bars. And sometimes it'd take me 2 or 3 hours to start picking myself up just to be able to stand up and hold up in the bars. Then I'd move all the way up to the side of a wall. And if I got up to the side of the wall, I can look outside and see a tree. And that sometimes became my whole goal for the whole day for 24 hours. Knowing what I was going through, but it was my goal. I was going to get up the next day, and I was going to see this tree. I was going to see something alive than the death that they was trying to give me. And that tree, I felt in many ways, spirituality, it kept me alive. And through times when, I thought about not being alive. And I can understand and empathize with somebody who takes their life, because it gets hard. Being on Thorazine or being on Stalazine in a cell, a prison cell, 5 foot by 8, when it's about 115 degrees in that cell, and the walls have perspiration on them, and you're able to breathe, it becomes almost impossible. The anxiety that you feel and the frustration that you feel makes you want to take your life.